In this video, we're going to talk about some of the best things you can do to improve your home's air quality, and we're not just going to talk about HVAC and HVAC upgrades, although we will spend some time talking about air filters and how to control the humidity in your home, but I will also tell you about one of my favorite ways to improve indoor air quality with a specific type of plant. And at the end of this video, there'll be a link to another video about how to get the best HVAC for your home, so make sure you check that out next. So first off, let's talk about air filtration. Now, the air filtration that I'm referring to is a basic filter that removes particulate matter from the air and affects the air quality of your home. Although there are lots of other types of air cleaners, like electronic air cleaners, for example. We will touch on those a little bit later in the video. And to start, I'll go through some of the filter options and what the various ratings mean, and I will give you some guidance on what type of filters we recommend. Generally speaking, we have to talk about the type of furnace filter rack setup you have currently in order to determine the kind of filter that is going to be best for your home. Now, if you have a standard type of air filter, you probably have a basic 1-inch thick air filter, and if your system is set up for a basic 1-inch filter, unfortunately you're not going to be able to benefit from a higher MERV rating filter, because when you jump to a higher MERV rating filter, 1-inch thick filters, unfortunately, what they really do more than anything is restrict airflow. And although they can technically trap more particulate matter, the problem is that 1-inch filters have very thin pleats because they are only 1 inch deep, and as a result, they don't provide your system with adequate airflow. And for air conditioning, this can mean system icing, and for furnaces, this can mean that your furnace is overheating in the middle of the winter and won't run properly until you remove the filter. So if you have a basic 1-inch air filter and you're not looking to upgrade your system, the best thing to do is run a MERV 8 filter. Now, this is a middle of the road filter when it comes to MERV rating and can remove some smaller particles like mold spores and pet dander, for example, but the micron rating is not so tight that it can capture things like smoke or bacteria or odors. So if you're wanting to add a filter that can catch things like bacteria and odors and really clean as much of the air as possible, the most important thing you're going to want to do is add a 4-inch or 5-inch filter rack. Now, oftentimes these are relatively easy to retrofit to an existing system, especially a side mount filter rack. Some of the 5-inch filter racks are boxes that have to go on the furnace at the time that it's installed because it has to sit on top, but a basic 4-inch filter somewhere mounted between your furnace and your return air drop is not terribly difficult to retrofit, and it's pretty easy to add after the fact. It's not the easiest, but it's definitely doable. But the reason you would want to run a 4-inch or 5-inch filter is because you have access to thicker filters and you actually have deeper pleats, which means that you have more surface area, which increases airflow, but also catches more particulate matter to give you fresher air in your home. And a 4-inch or 5-inch filter can typically handle a MERV 13 to MERV 16 rating without causing airflow issues. And for this reason, anytime someone mentions air quality, we always point this out as an option. Now, if your husband brings home a bunch of Indian food takeout for dinner, your house still might smell like curry for a couple hours later, so don't expect it to be a miracle worker when it comes to removing odors. In case you couldn't tell from that statement, I speak from personal experience. I love Indian food, and that has happened in my house, but I haven't found an air filter rated for chicken tikka masala just yet. But my point is that the most noticeable benefit that people report or customers report on these higher MERV rated filters is for people that have allergies. Now, keep in mind your basic MERV 8 filter can technically capture pollen in the air just fine. However, a higher rated 4-inch thick high performance filter will definitely be able to catch more of this, and that's the feedback we've gotten from customers. Now, in order to take advantage of a high efficiency 4-inch filter, the best thing to do from an air quality perspective is set your fan to on mode instead of auto. The way that auto works is once your system satisfies temperature, it will shut off the fan, and some customers complain that this can make the house seem stuffy, and if that's the case, then setting your fan to on mode when you're in the home is something that will allow you to continue to circulate air and therefore continue to filter the air. And there's also an added benefit to running the fan in on mode, and that is that the continued air circulation also provides for more even heating and cooling throughout the home, because when the furnace or air conditioner satisfies temperature on the thermostat, this continues to circulate air because you still have hot spots and cold spots throughout the house that don't match the temperature set on the thermostat. Now, another thing that you can also do to improve your home's air quality is houseplants, and I'm going to tell you about my favorite houseplant and the two reasons it's my favorite houseplant. The first is that I have had a few of them for over a year, and they are absolutely bulletproof and easy to take care of and are very hardy. The second reason I love this plant is because it is regarded as putting out higher concentrations of oxygen compared to most other houseplants, and also does a good good job of removing toxins from the air. Now, I take statements like this with a grain of salt because I actually haven't done air quality testing in my home to be able to determine to what extent that this is accurate, but it does seem to freshen up the space a little bit. And the plant that I'm talking about is the money tree, also known as Pachira aquatica. And this is what one looks like. Now, like I said, I know this has nothing to do with your HVAC, but it's still a part of improving air quality in your home and therefore comfort in your home, which is why I wanted to talk about it in this video. Now, the next settings and accessories I'm going to talk about are going to vary by region, and that's because we are going to be talking about humidity. Now, obviously, if you live in a place like Las Vegas or Colorado, you are going to be interested in adding humidity to your home because it can be extremely dry in the winter months. And if you're in some place like Texas or Florida, for example, you're obviously going to be interested in hearing about dehumidification and some of the settings that you can adjust to make sure that the humidity levels in your home are at the most comfortable levels, so that way you don't feel muggy and sticky when your system is running. So let's start with dry climates and humidifiers first. Now, there's another video on our channel that talks about the differences between a bypass and a steam humidifier that you can watch after this, but I'm going to break them down in a nutshell here so you can make a decision on whether or not it's the best decision for you. Now, the best humidifiers are typically going to be steam humidifiers for a couple of reasons. One is that they are more accurate and able to produce more humidity for larger spaces. They are also able to run year-round technically, whereas a bypass humidifier is only going to run in the winter when the furnace is running. The downside to a steam humidifier is that they require a dedicated 240-volt electrical circuit, which means they're more expensive to install, and the equipment itself is more expensive as well. Like I said, I break down those humidifiers in another video on our channel, which I will make sure to link at the end if that's of interest to you. Now, what if you live in very humid climates? Sometimes customers report that when the AC shuts off, it can feel cold and clammy, and oftentimes this can actually be the result of an improperly sized system, because if a system is too large for a home, it can short cycle, which means that when the HVAC stops running, because it satisfied temperature too quickly, it wasn't running long enough to actually circulate all of the air in the home and therefore remove moisture from the air. Now, in climates like Texas and Florida, the relative humidity is oftentimes at or close to 100%, and the reason you want a properly sized AC for your home that is running constantly on hot days, in addition to cooling your home, it is also dehumidifying and pulling moisture out of the air. And this is why a properly sized air conditioner should run constantly, and bigger is not better when it comes to air conditioning. You want the right size AC for your home and its design conditions, meaning what you set the temperature at and your outdoor design conditions as well, because if you just throw in a larger system thinking it's the right size, it might not function the way you had hoped and leave you with unwanted side effects like a muggy, sticky feeling house. Now, one thing I want to point out, if you have a newer system or a communicating system like the Daikin Fit, for example, a lot of these systems have settings in the programming where you can set your target humidity and overcooling and dehumidification settings. Overcool to dehumidify is a setting that is within your thermostat that allows your system to purposefully overcool your home to satisfy the humidity set point you're looking for, regardless of the temperature in the home. This way, if you set your target humidity for cooling purposes around 60%, for example, it will continue to cool until the humidity reaches its set point. The benefit of this is that in addition to feeling cool, you will also feel dry instead of feeling wet and muggy. Oftentimes, ductless mini split systems even have what's called a dry mode, which has the main purpose of dehumidifying separate from cooling. So if you happen to be in a very demanding humid climate like Houston, Texas, for example, considering adding a ductless head unit or cassette in your home can help manage humidity by running it in dry mode periodically. And there's one more HVAC accessory that can improve the air quality in your home. But before I touch on that, if you've been enjoying this content so far, please make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It takes a lot of time and energy to put out content like this on a consistent basis, and it's a free way you can support the channel, and it is much appreciated. And if you have any questions, post them in the comment section below, because we do read the comments and want to make sure that we're putting out content that is relevant to you and answers any of your questions. And the last accessory that I really like, and a lot of customers ask us to install them, are UV air purifiers like the Remy Halo. Now, this is essentially a UV bulb that sits in your ductwork, and as air is recirculated across the UV bulb, it helps sanitize the air in your home. Now, the primary benefit benefit is that it reduces airborne pollutants and bacteria and viruses in the air. Some customers report that it helps neutralize odors as well, but the primary science or evidence behind the technology is that UV lights do reduce concentrations of airborne bacteria and viruses. So if you happen to have a bunch of kids, dogs, people in general, aka bacteria factories, running around the house, then this can help maintain the air quality. And I don't know if it will prevent you from getting sick, but the science is on UV purifiers, and they definitely do reduce airborne bacteria and viruses. And if you happen to be in one of the areas we service, like Denver Metro or Colorado Springs, you can actually schedule an appointment with us for free. We come out for free for all first-time customers, whether that's for a service call or annual maintenance, or if you're just looking for an estimate for system replacement. And there's a link actually in the description below where you can schedule online at your convenience, as well as an up-to-date list of the cities and states that we service, so you can stay up to date when we start servicing your metro. So hopefully you found this content helpful, and if you still have questions, like I said, post a comment in the comment section below. We do read and respond to the comments, and as promised earlier, there's a couple videos popping up on the screen right now, so check those out if you haven't done so already, and we will catch you on the next episode.